Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time into the world of Enneagram Type 9s.
Okay.
And we're going to be exploring something pretty interesting today,
Yeah.
which is the concept of sloth.
Okay.
Now, you might think of sloth as just laziness,
Yeah.
but today we're going to uncover why it's so much more complex than that,
Right.
especially for Type 9s.
Yeah, you're right on. It's not about lounging around being lazy.
Right.
The interesting thing is that many Type 9s are incredibly hardworking, even in difficult situations. It might seem counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but this ties into their tendency to avoid inner conflict.
So they might be busy bees on the surface,
Yeah.
but still struggling with this inner sloth thing?
Yes.
I'm intrigued. What does that really mean for Type 9s?
Well, it comes down to what the Enneagram describes as self-forgetting. So for Type 9, sloth isn't about physical laziness.
Okay.
It's more about neglecting their own inner world, their feelings, their needs, their desires to maintain external peace and harmony.
So it's like putting everyone else's needs first
Yeah,
to avoid rocking the boat, even if it means losing touch with themselves.
that's right.
And that's the real sloth at play.
Precisely. They might be putting on this calm and agreeable facade, while internally they are wrestling with unresolved emotions
Okay.
or avoiding introspection altogether.
Yeah, I can see how that takes a lot of energy in itself.
It does.
Keep up that facade.
And think about it, diving deep into those thoughts and feelings
Yeah,
can be pretty daunting, especially if you're wired to seek harmony above all else.
that makes sense. But for our listener, how might this play out in a Type 9's everyday life?
Okay.
Can you give us a real-world example?
Picture this. You're a Type 9 student.
Okay.
You're facing a big exam.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of hitting the books,
Yeah.
you find yourself cleaning your entire apartment,
Huh?
organizing every drawer, even alphabetizing your spice rack.
Oh, wow. I think we've all been there,
Right.
haven't we? Procrastination can be a beast.
It can be.
But is that really sloth or just classic pre-exam jitters?
It's a bit of both.
Okay.
But for Type 9s, it's particularly significant.
Right.
Remember, sloth is about self-forgetting.
Right.
So while they're being active, even productive in a way,
Yeah.
they're avoiding the real task at hand,
Uh.
which is studying for the exam, which would require them to confront anxieties and engage with challenging material.
So the outward busyness is almost like a distraction from what's really going on internally.
Yes.
They're avoiding that inner conflict
Yeah,
by staying busy with external tasks.
that's a great way to put it. And this ties into another aspect of Type 9 sloth, which is their perception of time.
Okay.
Many Type 9s experience time as this vast, almost limitless thing. It can lead to putting off important things
Right, yeah.
because there's always this sense of tomorrow.
I'll get to it eventually.
Exactly.
But as we all know, eventually it doesn't always come.
That's true.
So how does this relate back to sloth and this idea of self-forgetting?
Well, it reinforces that psychological procrastination we talked about.
Okay.
It's not about being lazy.
Right.
It's a deeper resistance to addressing things
Yeah.
that might disrupt their inner peace
Yeah.
or force them to assert their own needs.
Okay.
It's about keeping things harmonious, even if it means neglecting their own growth.
This is fascinating stuff. We're really getting a sense of how this sloth thing manifests in Type 9s.
Yes.
But for our listener, is there a way out of this cycle of self-forgetting?
Absolutely. There's always hope. The Enneagram isn't about putting people in boxes.
Right.
It's about offering a path toward growth and transformation.
I like that.
For Type 9s, the key lies in embracing what's called right action.
Right action.
Yes.
That sounds intriguing. Tell us more about what that actually means.
Right, so we'll get into that right after this.
Okay, so right action.
Right action. We're back.
Yes.
What is it?
Well, it's about moving from a state of inertia and self-neglect to a place of conscious engagement and intentional living.
And it's inspired by the ancient Greek concept of kairos,
Great.
which refers to the opportune moment for action.
So it's not just about taking any action. It's about understanding the right time,
Yes.
the right way to act.
Exactly.
I see how that could be especially important for Type 9s
Yeah.
who might tend to go with the flow a bit too much.
That's right. For Type 9s, right action is about learning to tune into their inner compass, to discern what truly matters to them, and then taking steps to align their actions with their values and goals.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. But for our listener, how can they actually put this right action concept into practice?
Sure.
It sounds a bit abstract.
It can be. So the source material outlines 3 key elements that make up right action.
3 elements.
Prioritization,
Yeah.
engagement,
Uh-huh.
and timeliness.
All right, I'm taking notes.
Good.
Let's start with prioritization.
Okay.
What does that look like for a type 9?
Prioritization is all about learning to distinguish between what truly matters and what's simply a distraction. Type 9s, with their desire for peace and harmony, might find themselves saying yes to everything and everyone,
Yeah.
spreading themselves too thin, and ultimately neglecting what's truly important to them.
The classic people-pleasing trap.
Yeah.
So how can type 9s start prioritizing more effectively? What questions should they be asking themselves?
They might ask, is this task or commitment truly aligned with my values and goals?
Okay.
Or am I doing it out of obligation or fear of upsetting someone? Learning to say no gracefully, of course, is a crucial skill for type 9s on this path.
That makes a lot of sense. So they need to start tuning into their own needs and desires rather than constantly prioritizing the needs of others.
Yes.
What about that second element, engagement?
Engagement is about stepping into the arena of life,
Okay.
facing those uncomfortable feelings and experiences that might arise.
Right.
For type 9s, this can mean confronting their tendency to numb out, avoid conflict, or sweep difficult emotions under the rug.
So no more burying their heads in the sand. How can type 9s cultivate this kind of active engagement with their inner world?
It might involve practices like journaling, meditation, or even therapy.
Okay.
It's about creating a space where they can safely explore their thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Yeah.
Remember, self-awareness is the foundation for growth.
This is really resonating with me. It's like type 9s have this incredible capacity for inner peace.
Yes.
But it can sometimes come at the cost of truly engaging with the full spectrum of human experience.
That's a powerful insight.
Yeah.
And finally, we have the third element, timeliness.
Okay, timeliness. What's the significance of this for type 9 specifically?
Remember how we talked about type 9s often experiencing time as this vast, almost limitless thing?
Right.
Well, that can lead to procrastination in a sense that there's always tomorrow to deal with important matters.
I'll get to it eventually.
Exactly, but eventually never comes.
Yeah.
So timeliness is about developing a healthy sense of urgency, recognizing that certain actions need to be taken in the present moment. It's about shifting from a passive to an active stance, seizing opportunities as they arise and not letting life just happen to them.
So instead of just going with the flow, type 9s need to become more conscious of time and its limits.
Yes.
Learning to take action when it's needed. But how can they actually develop this sense of urgency without getting overwhelmed or stressed out?
It's about finding a balance between their natural inclination toward peace and the need for decisive action.
Okay.
They can start by setting realistic deadlines, breaking down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps, and focusing on one thing at a time.
That sounds like practical advice that anyone can benefit from.
Absolutely.
Not just type 9s.
Yeah.
So we've covered the 3 elements of right action.
We have.
But for our listener, how does this all tie back to the concept of sloth and type 9's journey towards self-discovery?
That's a great question. By embracing right action,
Okay.
type 9s can begin to break free from the inertia of self-forgetting and step into a more authentic and fulfilling life.
Okay.
But there's even more to it than that.
Wow. It feels like we've uncovered a whole new layer to this sloth concept.
Yeah.
It's not just about laziness. It's a much deeper struggle with self-awareness and taking charge of one's life.
That's right.
If you're recognizing some of these type 9 tendencies in yourself, what does that mean for you?
Well, it's a fantastic starting point. The first step towards growth is always self-awareness.
Right.
Recognizing those patterns of behavior, that tendency towards self-forgetting, that's crucial.
So it's not about labeling yourself or feeling stuck.
Right.
It's about using this knowledge as a springboard for positive change.
Absolutely. The Enneagram is a tool for understanding ourselves better, so we can make conscious choices. For our listener, it might be helpful to ask, where in my life am I putting my own needs on the back burner?
Yeah.
Am I truly engaged in my passions, or am I just going along to keep the peace?
Those are powerful questions to reflect on.
They are.
And even if you're not a type 9, you might be thinking of someone in your life who fits this description. How can this new understanding of sloth help you relate to them better?
Well, it can foster compassion and empathy.
Oh,
Instead of judging someone for seeming passive or indecisive, you can start to see their struggle with self-assertion.
Right.
Maybe that friend who's always busy but seems a little lost is actually battling with this inner conflict of sloth.
That's such an important point.
It is.
It's about understanding the why behind the behavior.
Yeah.
It's not about making excuses.
Oh.
It's about seeing the deeper struggle and offering support.
Exactly. And maybe with a gentle nudge,
Yeah.
you can even encourage them to explore these concepts for themselves.
So to recap, our big takeaway today is the sloth in the context of Enneagram Type 9, is not about being lazy.
Right.
It's a deeply ingrained pattern of disconnecting from one's true self, often to prioritize external harmony over inner fulfillment.
Yes. And the path forward for Type 9s is about reclaiming their power to choose.
Okay.
To be present, intentional, and engaged in their own lives. It's about breaking free from that inertia of self-forgetting and stepping into their full potential.
We've covered a lot of ground today, unpacking this complex concept of sloth.
We have.
But we've also highlighted the incredible potential for growth that exists within every Type 9.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
it really underscores the importance of self-awareness for everyone, no matter your Enneagram type.
Right.
We all have our blind spots, our areas where we get stuck. The key is to be curious to explore those areas and to keep growing.
Beautifully said. And on that note,
Yeah.
we'll leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If sloth is about this disconnect from the true self, what would it look like to truly reconnect? What small steps can you take today to be more present, more intentional, more aligned with your authentic self?
That's a powerful question to reflect on. I encourage you to keep exploring.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of Enneagram Type 9 and their complex relationship with sloth. Until next time, keep diving deep.